welcome to another episode of Loud and Brown. Today I'm your host, Sully. Have the privilege of having another guest on board, also Sam Pilisi. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to our podcast, and then tell us how's things been going.
Cool, Malo, Sully. Thank you for the invite. Just to come and chat on this channel. A bit about myself. Born here in New Zealand. Both my parents were born here in New Zealand as well, in central Auckland. Both my parents, their parents came as singles, as you do, in that time looking for work, coming to set up new opportunities. Then along the way, found each other, got married, had kids, and then, both my parents born in central Auckland in Grey Lynn, and then subsequently myself, my siblings, my first cousins on both sides, we all sort of grew up around each other. My mum's Niuean, and her parents hail from Avasele and Alofi, and then my father's Samoan. And then on that side, I sort of connect to sort of two sets of Samoan families. One is my stepdad's family, who connect back to Asetoa Lepai and Matautu. And then on my biological father's side, we connect back to Lufi and Vailopa Lauli. And so I just do my best to sort of acknowledge those sort of connections, and sometimes it gets a little bit tricky in some of our families because sometimes we don't always grow up, I guess, with our parents and stuff like that, or sometimes we don't see each other that often. But in terms of me and my brother's biological family, they've always been awesome to us, and they tell us not to forget them when we see them and stuff like that. But by and large, growing up in and around central Auckland, and just really enjoy doing stuff in the community, like many of us do. Just really keen to uplift our communities, and just ensure that we have prosperous lives, and I guess in its many meanings, but also connect back to what our parents or grandparents came for, because they had to do some struggle street stuff. I do get that in this current age we have our own struggles, but I really acknowledge lots of the people that came before these times, and came in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So had a vision, or so to speak, sacrificed so we could make the most of those opportunities. And that's what I try and do, is to just remind people is that, man, there's lots out there, be it in New Zealand or further abroad. And I guess this is our platform that our parents and grandparents saw. So that's a little bit long-winded, but that's me. And I'm just grateful to jump on this evening, Sully.
No worries, man. Oh, that's awesome that you've got quite a mixed and diverse background, and it's awesome that you've got obviously two sets of maybe three sets of families. Two out of your Samoan and one out of your Niuean. So makes the family gatherings more interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
Sweet as also. Obviously, just found out through the latest notice that we'll be extending our lockdown out to another week. How's things been with you as well as your household during this lockdown level 4?
Our household's been fine. I guess the normal struggles in regards to, being locked up a little bit inside.
Yeah.
But I think some things that we took on board from the first lockdown was to just try and be a little bit more intentional with our time, and just try break up the day, because I think it can easily just smudge into into a lazy day, or like not much of some clear purpose. And then I think in isolation, a day or two like that's the weekend, that's like a break. But then when it becomes like a week or two, like it can be a bit draining. Like, oh man, I'm tired of relaxing. So I think for us it's just a better routine. Just try to put some routine in place.
Oh, nice. And so within your own household, how many of you?
There's 5.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple that live upstairs, and then myself downstairs, and we would just see each other and just try and keep the day purposeful, whatever small or small or big things we're trying to tick off for the day.
Nice, awesome. Cool, man. So what delve a little bit more into your background and your upbringings. What was it like growing out of Central? Obviously, from when you're young, right through to primary, say intermediate to college. What was that like for you?
It was really cool, eh? I reckon, like growing up in the late '80s, '90s,
Yep.
yeah, I think if we want to call it simpler
Yeah,
times,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, I really I have fond memories about daylight savings
Mm,
in particular. Just neighborhood kids. Not everyone had power. Me and my brothers, we didn't have bikes, but we went on heaps of mean adventures with
yeah,
like with friends and people, and yeah, we just nicely roamed the streets, so to speak. Played at the park, people's backyards, and then funny enough, my nephew's well, one of my brothers has got a 15-year-old, and this was a couple of years back, so probably when he was about 12. And we were sitting at our parents' house and just referring to a big tree at the front. And I had mentioned to him that we had a tree hut. And then he was like, "Oh, what's that for?" And I said, "Oh, like, we used to climb the tree and hang out." And then he was like, "Okay, and then what do you do?" And I just said, "Oh, we'll just like sit there, chat, and I don't know, make up adventures." And he was like, and I think I was feeling a little bit nostalgic, so I was sort of like talking it up, like, and we did this, and then we found this wood when inorganics came and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and he sort of was just like, "Oh, stink." I felt a little bit hurt, so I was like, "Okay, I'm not sharing with you about that anymore."
Yeah, yeah. Oh man,
uh,
that's just what kids are like nowadays. Eh? Anything not associated with technology,
yeah,
it's so foreign to them.
yeah,
I think even yeah, with my kids as well, you know, trying to get them back into a routine of doing schoolwork, but like being away from devices, yeah, man, they're completely lost. Like just going outside. Oh, lucky we got dogs. You know, they can go outside, throw the ball around the dogs. But man, yeah, they that's what I'm fearful with the generation coming through. Man, they're missing out on a lot of awesome opportunity growing up outside. Man,
oh yeah,
yeah.
100%.
And siblings, how many siblings do you have, Sam?
I'm the oldest of four boys.
Oh, nice.
Our parents kept on, actually, our mother in particular
Mm.
kept wanting a daughter, and so she kept trying. But she's blessed to have five boys.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome, man. You guys are close knit as well.
Yeah, we're quite close knit, and in regards to me and well, the three oldest, we were 1 year apart,
Yep.
and so we sort of had like a very shared childhood.
Mm.
We were all following after each other at school, at sports. Like we were always sort of like just following, either in the same space or just about to join.
Yep.
And then we have a brother who's from me, about 12 years separated,
Yep.
in terms of age gap. And so we grew up a little bit older than him.
Mm.
And so we sort of tease him, just go, "Oh, that by the time he arrived, like we were starting to live good, eh?" Well, like talk about random feeds we used to have, just like rice and butter or
Yeah.
sugar, all these other stuff. And then we're like, "Yeah, no, I remember." I was like, "No, no, no. We need, by the time you came, both our parents leveled up and
Yeah.
new jobs or whatever. And then, like, we had to treat you well." And then we've got a baby brother who is 7.
Oh, nice.
But then again, he's like lived he's living now as a young child,
Yeah, yeah.
like yeah, in a different era to the three oldest, and then the second one after that, like we've all had
Different eras,
similar,
eh?
yeah, different eras.
Oh,
So
that's awesome, man. With you and your siblings as well, like I can imagine being a household for boys, was there any like rivalry or competitiveness within the household itself?
yeah, I don't think it's like a secret that especially amongst my brothers, number 2 and 3 like have lots of rivalry, and then 1 and 4 become like referees.
Yep.
Number 5 is in his own world. But I think, yeah, all in our different ways, we sort of compete with each other,
Mm.
keen to do sport and keen to do well in this, but then equally so find our way to support each other,
Yeah,
and
have to, man.
uplift each other. So, but I think a good healthy dose of Mox keeps us in check.
Oh man, can't imagine a household. I mean, I've got a lot of guy cousins, and it's just the same as well, man. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
healthy dose of mocking, healthy dose of competitiveness.
yeah.
Oh no, that's awesome. Also, what high school did you go through?
I went to Mags.
Oh, nice.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
and Mags now is quite different to when I was there.
Mm,
But I've had like a different family either teach there or siblings and cousins sort of been there in the last 20 years. So sort of keep an eye on how the school starts to change.
yeah, yeah.
And it's fully ballooned out into a different school and different school community,
Mm,
which is cool. But I think lots from my era, and I think um, lots of people have nostalgic memories and get precious of their own era. And so I think, yeah, people from my area and even people, lots of Mags old boys in particular, before my era, they're quite proud of what Mags used to be. Uh, and yeah, I guess sometimes laments about what that used to be and what they meant. Whereas now the schools, yeah, got a totally different makeup, and it's done, yeah, well, and lots of other things as well. So
That's sick. Also, just to follow on that same question also is, you've just pointed out the differences and obviously within the school itself. What's some noticeable differences that you see, like from you growing up back in the day out at Central to, like, say, right now where your nephews and your nieces are growing up? Like, what do you see different in the community, the people, but at the same time, like within schooling as well? What do you see as the major differences?
yeah, growing up in the 90s, in terms of area, I guess if we call it, um, I guess the onset of gentrification or the changing nature of the community.
Mm,
Lots of people of my age were slowly chatting and like, oh shucks, how many islanders still left on your street?
yeah.
And oh, like new neighbors here, eh? And then like, oh yeah, that fish and chip shop, it's closed, eh?
Mm,
And so little by little, eh? But I think as a child, and then, like there was lots of still signposts, if I call it
mm,
that, signposts to a previous era
mm,
of, I guess, rugged homes, various types of shops, and all that sort of stuff. But slowly over, yeah, 20 maybe going on 30 years, things started to change. You see new people come in. I remember, as a random illustration, I remember, I think Neighbours at War or Noise Control, like a New Zealand TV show.
yeah.
And I remember there being like an episode where there was a small segment around a Tongan church in Richmond Road in Greyland, and there's quite a few Tongan churches in the area. But I think the back side of its car park also was neighbouring a large and new apartment complex. And so what had happened was that the gist of that little segment of the episode was that yeah, the new neighbours weren't that keen on hearing Tongan hymns up until like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning.
Ah,
And yeah, I guess it just was really interesting hearing, because they like, interviewed like, I guess, some people in the apartments, and them talking about, they're like, oh, it's just loud and all these other stuff and it goes forever. And then you hear and then they interviewed the congregation,
mm,
and then they were just talking about like, man, we've been here for like 50 years, man.
yeah.
Like they were saying stuff like, like we've been here 50 years, like we don't cause trouble with anyone. This is our church. This is like the hub of our community. And I think in lots of different ways, there's been lots of those teething or tensions
Yeah,
trying to figure itself out as the neighborhood sort of changes. Some are seamless where people are just like, oh, beautiful. We get to hear like Tongan singing or whatever else.
yeah,
Like, we get to experience that on our doorstep. And then, nothing happens because it stays as usual and just merges nicely together.
yeah.
And then perhaps in other instances that annoys people.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh, especially being out central, man. It's, yeah, the demographic right now compared to what it was when you were growing up is probably, completely different. And
Oh, yeah,
yeah, and
100%.
it's a major hub now for, like, obviously the CBD, and just even the housing prices around there is crazy, man. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
No, cool. No, that's awesome. Also, thanks for sharing that with us. We'll talk a little bit more about what you're currently doing, presently, in terms of your profession itself. Also,
Mm.
discuss or tell us a little bit about what you do for a career, and um, yeah, then we'll go on from there.
Cool. Um, I accidentally found myself into, I guess, working in the tertiary university education space.
Mm,
Um, yeah, never. And I guess the roles that I've had within the space vary from either mentoring, youth mentoring, to I guess what they might call engagement or outreach
mm,
type of work on behalf of a university. I did stuff for a university in Sydney, similar type kaupapa, and then a few different places here in Auckland,
mm,
with the basis of it being that I guess if we call it preaching the gospel, but working with Pacific young people and their families to like just fully understand the education system, in particular the tertiary system,
mm,
so that they can access it in this way as I guess a means to leveling up. And leveling up is not all just about money.
mm.
That's a key thing, obviously. Leveling up in terms of development, life skills, the brain and stuff. So in lots of different ways, I've sort of moved around in that space, and I've really enjoyed it. But like I said right at the beginning, I didn't plan to see.
Yeah,
And in a very short introduction to how I jumped into this was I was lucky enough to ask to be a mentor at Dream Funnel, which ran for I think 10 plus years. It's a
mm,
large Pacific students mentoring camp. I went as a mentor, even though I was I think 22, 23, just still trying to figure out
yeah,
my life. But I loved it.
yeah.
It
What year
was
was
like
that?
um, '06.
Oh, I think I was there. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I was in Shana's group. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes. I think that's where I remember you from, Dream. Yeah, because I was one of the lucky few, and yeah, that was an awesome camp. Awesome. It was cool as well. Yeah, I'll let you just tell us a little bit more about Dream, man.
I'm trying to think who was the male mentor. I see his face. Was it
It
like a
was
quiet
Was
Tongan guy?
Tongan guy.
Yeah,
The he always wore a beanie, and he was a quite
yeah, yeah.
mellow guy, but he was a cool dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see him. Um, yeah, I don't think I saw him much after Dream. But anyway, I went to Dream, sort of hearing a little bit about it, and I went to,
Mm,
mentor. And as you've been there from the student experience, just reminded me of like youth camp,
yeah.
Sunday school camp, where there's laughs, competition, a little bit of drama,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
a little bit of crying, a little bit of singing, and a little bit of like all of that mixed together, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I came back and I was like, man, wow, what was that? And to just sort of finish off that last bit and to sort of perhaps magnify what was really powerful for me is that I always reference this young man who was in my group, and his name is Phil Twygamala. But at that camp, I met him right at the beginning, as you do, and everyone gets broken into groups. But someone already pointed out to me, like, oh, that kid over there, he's a rat bag, he's tennis menace, all this sort of stuff. And then I was like,
Mm,
oh, okay. And then I saw him turn around because there's like 150 kids everywhere. And then he had the same color name tag as mine. And I was like, this guy is in my group. And then so I was like, then I try to be like a little bit of like a bad cop. It's like, hey, I heard you got ants in your pants. They move anywhere. Like, anywhere you need to go. Like, you ask me, I'm the boss, whatever, etc.
mm,
And then as we journeyed through the camp, he became my right hand man, and like man, we just smoked, we laughed. He was down for competition because even if Islanders say it's not a competition, everything's a competition.
Doctor.
So he's trying to outbeat everyone. And then at the end of camp, as you go back to your buses, like this was like I was not ready for, I guess, this powerful encounter.
Mm,
And so we all had our small group farewells, and then everyone starts to go off, and then he flagged me down, and he tried like he grabbed me and he said, "Oh, like," and then like he said his own sort of thank yous, and not like I guess verbatim, but just the gist of what he was saying is like, "Man, thanks for this week. Like I really enjoyed it. I'll never forget you." And then it goes, I
Mm,
love yous. And I was just sort of like, okay, gave him a hug, hop back on the bus. And it wasn't until the drive back from Cambridge, I don't know, 2 hour drive or something like that. And I reflected,
mm.
one, I was like, gee, I didn't even say I love you back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because I was like, and then I just sort of started reflecting, going like, oh man, this young island kid just met at the beginning of the week, and I guess, just trying to make sense, like what caused him to say
mm,
I love you, and just be really thankful for the week, and say like I'll never forget you, because at the beginning of the week we were strangers, and
mm.
I couldn't really like pin it down, but basically I was just like, man, that's some magic, that's some magic. If this is sort of work, and I'd be really keen to do this sort of stuff. Like I did see myself conditioned to do some, I know, clock in, clock out sort of stuff.
Mm.
And then from there, I just sort of put up my hand to jump into like all these random youth projects that were to hang out, have a few laughs, inspire, empower, and in the same way that, like I did a dream, and then lots of my experiences in the community, man, as much as you sow into others and you serve into others, and I guess try to bless others, then you walk away so blessed, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
And it came there like, like really, really catchy. And so that little buzz, if we call it that, at dream, just
mm,
really propelled me to jump from job to opportunity to projects, to just to go, man, this was cool. And when I have left a few of my different jobs at times, I've asked Phil to come. And
mm.
when Phil was living in Auckland, and Phil would come to my farewell, and then I'd always just talk about how I got into youth work, and I always just reference him, and I just try and remember that what was 2006, that random special moment that sort of spiraled into some cool sort of experiences, eh?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a mean ass story. So, even with myself, I think I bunked with Phil as well. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's funny. Eh? So, see, as you said, Phil, bro, the first thing that came to mind was Denzel, because
Denzel.
that was the man's name at the camp. Eh? Like, suddenly, use your
Yeah,
proper Christian name. Your parents didn't name you Denzel, and the man will always laugh. Eh? And then,
that's what he did that first night.
yeah,
And then for the whole first day, I was like, oh, man, that's not my name, man. I need to change it. I need to change it. Like, hey, I told you, I'm not going to deal with any of your.
yo, he was actually really crack up there. Shout out to the Uso film, man. Because yeah, we bunked in like he was real cool. The room that we had was like him. I know it was one of the others was Troy Tuua.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it was a few other dudes, but all I remember was in that room was just funny. Eh? Like everyone was a clown, and so like everyone would like there were all the FIFA gingers around at that time too, and so it was just funny. It was just like I was just cracking up there in my own corner. I think it was just me from who in that room, and like for
Yeah,
myself, or like I was only comfortable being a clown around like our own crowd. So those boys were real good in accepting me, and then after
man.
that, man, like they're like our brotherhood just grew mean. It got to the point like at the end of the week, it was like the same moment that you and Phil had, like we were talking to the boys, man, fuck, gonna miss you guys, and blah blah blah. There's something about that week where you wake up, like you go to sleep and you wake up next to these boys that you like. It's like a bond that you always have. Eh? So good thing about Dream was like moving forward to like further down the line in life, like when you see them, like you always have something that you can connect to, eh? And that's
Yeah,
part of that buzz that you're on about as well, also. And that's an awesome initiative. Dream, is it still going right now? I know with lockdown, probably not, but
I think it stopped 2 years ago,
oh,
and
okay,
it was run by the University of Auckland. And last I got told, I guess they were just trying to figure out what they wanted to do with the project.
yeah, yeah,
But I think most of us that have been associated with it, either as our mentors or running the program
mm.
or students, I know a good chunk of people were like, man, not like we're volunteering to pay for it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we're like, man, it's like it's powerful,
yeah,
man.
it is,
And
man. Nah, cool, man. That's awesome. So what is it what is the actual role of what you're doing now? You're with AET.
yeah, currently with AUT, and I work in the future students team. And so the basic mandate of what our team does is go up and down the country to high schools.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess the short version is we just try and share about AUT and try and promote young people to look at their options and consider if uni is part of the equation when they leave school. Then some elements of working hard, dreaming, goals,
Mm.
and then what does it look like on the other side. That's the nuts and bolts, and then in between out of that sort of stuff, then
Yep.
we just do heaps of like cool different programs there with young people.
Mm.
Get to go into schools, have them on campus, run lots of activities, and just have fun.
Yeah. Cool. When you like how you're saying you go up and down the country, what are the differences and challenges, say, from um, Auckland compared to other parts of the country, or are they all relatively the same? Or
I think there's an underlying anxiety that comes with like this big
decision?
transition
Oh,
and decision making that comes for year 12, year 13 students up and down the country.
mm,
And it's either, there's lots of things from, and I think this idea of belief or self belief runs right across ethnicities, social, economic areas, different cities. I think it's just that, yeah, the biggest transition to date for a young person and then also their family. Um, but I guess in saying that, yeah, I find up and down the country, lots of young people have challenges around self
mm,
belief. Just going, oh, like, is that for me? Am I really good enough or smart enough, or can I do it? And then there's lots of just other challenges, even for academically capable young people. And it's nice to have, I guess, options. Um, but I guess sometimes the downside to having options is sometimes it's clutter.
yep.
It's too much to think about. It's like, and whatever pressures that come associated with that, be it their friends, be it their parents, be it their teachers or other key adults in their lives. So it gets a little bit tricky. And what we try and do is just work through those anxiety points, and just be a friendly face to go, hey, like this, if you're not sure, that's totally fine. Or if there's XYZ and you're just confused, that's totally fine. If you do all your best research, visit all the unis and then jump into a program at uni, and like there's lots of hype around it. Everyone's so proud of you, and that even if like on day one or within week one of jumping into this course and you just go like, I don't think this is for me. Like,
Mm,
we'll just try and alleviate that. Like, lots of these curveballs are normal, and sometimes you just can't plan for. Other than this idea of, I guess, young people trying to grow some resiliency.
yeah, yeah, yep.
And the tricky thing with lots of, I guess, learned skills in life is that you can't really grow resiliency without going through tough times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, and so, like, even though like tough times can be a bit hard
Mm,
and can be challenging and sometimes can severely dent or break people,
mm,
I guess the learnings from, I guess, some of these challenging situations is that we slowly build up some strength and
yep.
and just like to move past these things, think of solutions. And so, yeah, I've been to like random different places, and although I've lived most of my life in Aotearoa, New Zealand, there's still lots of places that I haven't been to.
Yep.
So, like, I think while the borders are a little bit shady, um, need to make the most of it.
No,
But in saying that, through work, I've been to lots of cool places up and down the country, man. So cool.
no, that's awesome. Also, and with work now being in level 4, do you guys still do like live sessions or schools or with groups through Zoom and other? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
So last year was a little bit, I guess, tricky as everyone was transitioning into what a digital interface looks like.
yep.
And so, yeah, it took a while,
Mm,
for schools to get on top of their digital interface between themselves and the students, important notices, teaching the subject, curriculum, etc. Then obviously we're an external group, but by the halfway through the first long lockdown,
Mm.
yeah, we sort of started doing appointments, starting having one-to-one sessions. Now we're still doing that, but we're preparing for our open day, which was supposed to happen 25th of August. Next Saturday will be totally online.
Nice.
And that was a cool, and thus far in terms of some of our small discussions and training, it's pretty cool, eh? Like we've just been learning how to run a live event and have different screens up to get different speakers in. Um, I guess in a normal face-to-face world, we wouldn't have to do any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And most of our team are quite comfortable in speaking in front of a crowd, but face-to-face.
Mm.
But on a digital platform and the technology associated with it, it's been, I guess, a new area for many of us to learn and try and master in the best way possible, so then we can still deliver on our job, so to speak, albeit in this digital environment.
Yep. Now that's awesome, Mus. And so, with your the program that you're currently in, does the work stop obviously after the students at university, or do you still stay in contact or communication with them right throughout their studying years?
What our unit does is we work primarily on the prospective student stuff.
Mm.
There are a few units across the university that do um, that either pick them up once they come to uni, or do like a right across, do the stuff in the schools, and then do some follow-on stuff to bridge the transition. So they do some cool stuff. And yeah, in regards to what we do, we just do the bulk externally, and then I guess in an ad hoc way,
Yep.
we just get to see students out and about on campus.
Nice.
And they're like, "Hey, you that guy that came to like Kaitaia
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or other random parts of the country," and then like we'll just be like, "Oh yeah, shucks, like you were wanting to do physio, just have a bit of a yarn and how's that all going?" And it's nice. And I guess if there are some challenges, they're like, "Oh, have you been to? No, no, come. I'll take you to these guys. These are the guys that are gonna help with this." And then if they're like sorted, then it's like, "Man, it's so cool to see you. Like all the best for the weeks and whatever." Blah blah. And bump into them again and have another like random yarn.
No, that's awesome, Mus. With the with the government right now, there seems like there's a massive shift for getting more of our high school students to pick pick up a trade or learn a trade.
Mm.
Has that has that front from the government or that push from the government, like, has that lessened those who have come through to like tertiary studies, or like, well, what's the impact of that decision is pretty much what I'm asking.
Um, I'll answer probably in half of it,
Mm.
so to speak, in terms of the scope. From our enrollments post 2019 or 2020 COVID, so 2021 enrollments, they were up.
Mm.
Likewise, all universities were up. Um, I guess the generalization out of that is that um, some of the people that would have been going overseas to study or to work, etc.,
Yes.
decided to stay in New Zealand. Secondly, as a result of the stress and the challenges for young people in acquiring university entrance, particularly the Year 13 credits, they lowered that last year in recognition of I guess, the not normal conditions. So I guess what we can gather out of that was that there were more young people that were either staying home or got university entrance and then decided to take up study. In regards to the trades conversation, I've seen lots of stuff happen in the community of trying to get our young people across that.
Mm.
Young people in general, but I also have seen a bit of stuff in terms of Māori and Pacific, and I think it's awesome. I think the more opportunities there are for young people to grab, I think part of the challenge, and it does get a bit tricky, is for young people trying to figure out where's the best place there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I don't think it's a where's the best place full stop. It's the where's the best place for you,
yeah, yeah.
and then that can be trades, that can be uni, that can be going into the forces, army, police, whatever. Like, and yeah, and so I definitely see there's been a big push, and I think most people in Auckland driving around, you can see our suburbs are changing.
Yep.
Uh, Massive housing intensification, um, different to what we're used to. And so I guess for that is there comes opportunities for work, and I think the conversation is two part. And I don't work in trades or construction, but
Mm.
I have some friends, and I think there's two parts to the conversation that I guess our community needs to be across. Is one, the jobs that are readily available now, in terms of either um, just chuck on about, get the hammer, and start following orders. And I think that's still worthwhile. And I think historically, lots of our people enter into these sort of jobs anyway, not just in construction, but across other levels. But I think if we consider that construction and housing is gonna only increase in terms of the need for that to, I guess, house New
Mm.
Zealanders, Kiwis, is that we also need some Pacific people with either entrepreneurial spirits to sort of be running the show, be it either the foreman, construction site manager, or construction companies. I know a few. I think the boys in Three Houses Down are in construction, and I think maybe a few other brothers. But I think there's still room for more of our people to be operating at that level as
Mm.
well, as opposed to just jumping on the tools. And I get it, like that's a quick fix, and you can, yeah, there may be like lots of work, but I guess this idea of also climbing up the ladder,
Yeah. Yeah.
or bigger influence, bigger person. I guess also when you're in charge or higher up the ladder, you can bring more people with you.
Nah, that's awesome, Moss. Um, while I was looking you up, a study study came up that you delved into the dilemmas of NZ Pacific born and within the involvement of responsibilities within the Pasifika family. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because I felt that what I read up was real interesting, but at the same time, it's something that we're currently all experiencing, like from our
Mm,
generation to the generation moving forward as well.
yeah,
Share some of your insight and your findings with us.
cool. Thanks, Khalid. So that was a study for my master's in 2019,
Yep.
and there's definitely some personal narrative in that.
Mm.
But what I also like to acknowledge is all the young people I interviewed. Man, they were awesome.
Yep.
Also, young people that love their families, love their community, and serve,
Mm.
and do it with the best that they can do. But what was really cool though in the conversations was that, like, we were quite real, that like we enjoy serving, we enjoy doing things for others, and it sort of comes natural to us, and we see the benefits. We see how happy everyone is when we build together, we link arms.
Mm.
But like, yeah, people were keen to just table that there are some challenges.
Yep.
It gets tricky. All the young people I spoke to said, like, when I was just trying to talk some scenarios about this and that, like, so if you don't serve us, like, if we don't do that, or if you don't help there, is that like being selfish? And I'm like, yeah, no, that's selfish. Don't want to be that guy.
Yep.
And then I give it like another situation about, oh, and if this is that, and but I like, is it okay? And they're like, yeah, no, it's good to have a rest. It's good to balance. And then, like, I guess what's quite clear, but I think it's all normal for us and how we navigate life. It's tricky. There's lots of levels to how we exist in our families, in our churches, in our communities. There's lots of levels to these things, and I guess what one of the really key things I was keen to put out there was that, because in different spaces, I do get that. Yeah, I guess service is tricky,
Mm.
and in my experience, in some literature, in some spaces of conversation, surfing's got a bad rap from our people. Like, they get a bad taste, and then they up and leave, and they're gone, and they're just like, nah, like our culture, our people are dumb, or whatever. Like, like, it's too much. all the young people I spoke to said, yeah, like it can get too much. But what they were committed to was like, nah, we need to carry this on.
Mm,
We need to hold on to the basic values of serving and being generous in our service and our time and our love. But they were open to figuring out like, okay, yeah, what's a balancing act? What's a better way to manage this? What's a little bit more sustainable? And without, I guess, throwing shade, but like lots of the young people all could name examples of people in their world.
mm,
They're up and left. They don't do these things anymore.
mm,
And then I guess the ironic thing was that one thing that they acknowledged was that, be it culture, be it family, funeral, whatever, like all these things, like the people that leave these spaces and then a time in their life when they need this knowledge,
mm,
they come back knocking on the door and they're like, hey, who's these people? How do you do this?
mm.
I guess what most of the young people were saying was like, I'm not anyone special, but I just know these things because I stayed,
Yeah.
and yeah, it gets hard for all of us, but if you stay or if you just not don't go forever, have a break, come back, or just stay a bit more connected to the stuff, then you would know more than you do.
Mm,
And so, yeah, I was keen just to put some narratives on the table that, despite the challenges, I think service is empowering and it's important. And I think, I guess, a conversation for our generation and the generations after is, how do we acknowledge perhaps some of the challenges of our previous generation, and just make it a little bit more sustainable for our lives here in New Zealand
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
Australia, or elsewhere. But I think what the young people were saying, and I'm an advocate of, is that we can't be quick to just chuck it all out.
Mm,
Because once we chuck it all out, all these values about serving and all that stuff, then it gets a bit tricky for us to come back and try find it later.
mm, mm. No, no, definitely understand, and that was probably one of the reasons why I connected to your piece as well was the fact that and it comes back to what we were speaking about earlier, man, resiliency, right? And
Mm,
it's like yeah, everyone, especially within our Pasifika community and within our culture, man, it does get a lot of bad rep, especially when it comes down to the financial side. Like,
mm,
I think we're lucky enough as first and second gen NZ born polys that we've experienced through our upbringings, through our growing up, how our parents have navigated that space of service within the culture. That now that we can make the right tweaks moving forward, so that we still instill within our kids and within our family the importance of service towards our culture, but in a way that we can balance it out and make it not too like where we don't make it where we make it rather responsibility rather than what's it called, liability. So yeah, no, that was awesome. And like for people out there who are watching, like that's probably a piece of, if you definitely want to delve into the issues within our Pasifika community towards service, that's a piece I would highly recommend. Sweet. Also, and we'll delve into something else now. Well, I know you do a lot of community work. I know you're on the board for the 360 Total board, as well as what I saw you're a part of the Atuhau Avatele NZ United as well. Tell us a little bit about your community work within those organizations, but as well as anything else you're doing within the community.
mm. Thanks, Sally. I think I think we all have our own experiences of getting roped into things, and both of those are examples of that. But I also think, and I'm going to sound a little bit contradictory of what we're saying, sort of out of the study, because I guess there definitely is a need for this balance.
Mm,
Um, but I think what whether we're conscious of it or not is that when we serve and we do it, especially when we link arms with people, and that's either in our family get-togethers, or in our churches, or even wider community groups, it's some magic happens.
mm,
people fill in the gaps, and people do stuff, and I guess even everyone's little money, little time, little energy, but big heart, man, massive things happen, eh? And so, yeah, I've just been lucky to be roped into stuff. And then in my own journey of that, I have had times where I've got too much on, eh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I like all of a sudden I just like, frick, how did my plate end up being so full?
Mm,
But I guess as we try and stay committed to, I guess, our word,
mm,
if we try and stay committed to what we saw as the purpose of jumping in or
mm,
trying to contribute, and I think also if we have our eye on who benefits from this, then I think often we find another gear
mm,
to move into. In terms of my own resiliency, yeah, I've just learned to jump into things when and where I can now.
mm,
Still sit on a few different things, and without, I guess, making it all about me. I try find times where like I don't go to all of the stuff, and if I just have to table say, oh, I can't make it to this thing, I've just got a lot on. Then I just try and envisage that if I'm keeping myself good, then I come back refreshed for the next one, eh?
mm,
Or if I just only contribute in this little time, I say, hey, what are tasks to do? This is what I can do. And yeah, I think most of those community groups that I jump into all are just about trying to uplift our people, eh?
yep.
360 Talofa, and specifically with our elders, who are yeah, often held in high regard in our communities. But one thing I really enjoyed last year was the ball that sort of the main people in our board put together.
Mm,
And we're expecting miracles to happen,
yeah, yeah.
but it was beautiful. We didn't really have much budget, much time, but we had passion.
Mm,
And one thing that I'll link the sport to that I thought was quite profound was maybe a few years ago, um, I saw online, and I think it's still circulating a little bit, was about different old people, like, but it was like two parts. One was like them in their like prime,
mm,
and like maybe they were all old, like a lady, she was all like makeup and all. And then the other part, she was like looking, or it was maybe like in the mirror, and then now she was old and frail and stuff like that. And then, because I remember, and I'm going off tangent again, I remember a couple of months after that, I remember hearing a radio interview,
mm,
and this lady volunteers her time. She goes to rest homes. And she goes into rest homes and she does makeup for some of the old ladies that like are keen to just sit there. And what she was sharing was that I guess like it's a weird time in their life when they're like no longer beautiful or no longer get dressed up for these big occasions,
yes.
but she'll spend half a day and then they'll just talk about their glory days of going to balls and all these things and feeling, I guess, worthy and beautiful.
Yep.
How that links back to me is that the ball that the committee and the board put together uh, just reflected upon me
Yep.
like, man, these are oldies that are like respectfully past their time.
Mm,
But then this was an avenue for them to get into their ball frocks
yeah.
and all of these things get pampered. And I just said, man, this is beautiful,
Yeah.
man. Like, there's definitely lots of things to change people's lives and have massive impact. Like people need to be fed, people need jobs, all of the stuff. I get that. But for that like evening, I was like, man, these old people are,
Glory days.
who knows? Who knows? This, yeah, might be a window just back into their glory days, and maybe they'll never have a ball again. That they do all their hair and all their makeup and tiara, whatever. And I was like, man, that was really cool. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful to be around
Mm,
those sort of things where our people um, see the need in our communities or just want better or want cool experiences for our people to experience. And if I can lend myself into that, I know that obviously I'm doing the serving,
yep.
trying to bless others. But like we know, many of us know, is, man, we walk away with our cups fully, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man.
We walk away, and so I was pretty chuffed. And so, yeah, it's a small little snippet of some of the stuff I jump into or I get pushed into.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. another part of um, our podcast. I always like to delve into a bit of yeah, your personal side. I know you're a bit of a massive NFL or football personnel yourself. I know you've been up and down the ranks within the local football scene. We'll delve into that, and we'll delve into a bit of NFL. Um, what team do you normally you represent, and how have you seen the scene grow over the couple of years that you've been within the sport?
Mm. Um, Pretty much most of my immediate family, we've all played for a central club
Yep,
called Metro Lions,
nice.
based in Grey Lynn. We've sort of had a few other family members play for some Southside clubs and
Mm,
stuff like that. And as you do when you play relatives, you have a bit of a laugh and throw some extra stuff in there. And then, yeah, like it's just like, it's like with lots of sports, it's a cool way to hang with your mates, learn skills, get that competitiveness out of you. Um, and in terms of the sport, my mum's brother played 80s, 90s, actually still sort of like randomly suiting up. Everyone's waiting for him to finish. But that was our sort of introduction, me
mm,
and my brothers, and then our cousins. And because then he would rope along either, yeah, he would rope along his brothers or brother-in-laws, etc. And then it became like a family sport. And probably from my teens to about 5 years ago, there'd be like uh, seven, eight of us playing in different teams across the club.
mm.
And so definitely like our Saturdays for American football in the summer would be what our family would do. Um, would come out and support. So obviously, some of us play, some of us would do the water, and yeah, just have lots of laughs and memories to look back on. In terms of the scene, I've done little bits of, I guess, organizational stuff, some stuff with our own club. It gets a bit tricky. Like I know sports right across is slowly dwindling.
Mm.
Sports participation numbers. Unfortunately for American football, I guess it's the other in the minority sort of area, and it's quite costly.
It is. It is. Yep.
It's very costly, so it's not a like an easy startup.
No.
And I know there's costs associated with tag and touch and stuff, like especially when you put teams together for uniforms. But I think as a startup, like those things are like relatively quite easy
Mm,
to do in teams and modules, and just can scale up
mm.
quite a bit. American football, and I think since I've been watching, like the local games, 25 years, it just sort of just goes up and down.
Mm.
No real movement. Hasn't really grown. At some times, it's definitely gone smaller. But I guess over that 20 plus year span, it's just unfortunately dwindling or going round and round.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I understand, man, and it doesn't help as well. Like, yeah, say when you're mentioning, like, say, touch and tag, like, probably the most expensive part of those for an individual is probably the boots, and
Mm,
then the red gear. Whereas with American football, you've got your helmet, you've got your pads, and you've got the strip, and then you've got your boots. And it's
mm,
like that for individual as a startup, that's expensive, and
mm.
it's such an awesome sport because I do follow it passionately myself.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, but I remember back in the day, like when some of my best one of my good friends, his older um brother-in-laws, they were quite big for the Raiders, and I used to
Nice.
always go watch the games. And it was like for a sport that was quite foreign to New Zealand or within Auckland itself, there's quite some big crowds. And then I went to the final. I think it was probably like 2-3 years ago out at Manarewa. Maybe because it was a final, it was a decent crowd, but I remember like a bigger crowd back in the finals. This is when I was in high school, so yeah, it was pretty. That's why I asked. I just wanted to see what your reaction would be to the scene. But then again, like more of these popular sports have more sponsors come on board, to help it grow, have more of the community boards on board to help the sport grow. Whereas with American football, probably doesn't have that luxury. And
Yeah, the same people, like I guess running clubs trying to keep it afloat. and the same people doubling up, I guess, working for the regional organization. And the challenge, which I don't really have a solution for, also for expansion teams, is because you'll know this by watching, just because the sport's so uh, segmented into technical skills. Like it's just like it's like yeah, it's hard to just set up a new team.
Mm. It does, man.
Like you literally need to have like half of an existing team set up a new team, so then at least across the board you've got a few guys that know what they're doing.
Yes, yes.
And just in my time of watching, like I think I know two senior men's clubs that literally were like 90% rookies, and they just get demolished,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's just hard, and I don't blame them. It's disheartening when you're just getting pumped week in, week out.
Yeah,
But then some of the expansions, a little bit before my time, I know, and I guess maybe sometimes it comes from a bad thing,
yeah,
but when teams split because they've had a fallout over, then generally when they've set up a new club, then they've got a running start.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, some of those teams over the years have done really well, as opposed to just someone going 2, 3 mates, okay, let's set up a new team, and then they try and like get all their mates, but are often rookies, and it's
Well,
hard.
mate, and like it's not like a sevens or rugby team or league team where you only need what 7, 13, 15, or maybe 22 players within within American football itself. Like the amount of people you need on like all three sides of the game,
Mm,
crazy, man. So I know people as well as during the summer, no one wants to give up their time, they want to just enjoy, summer before everyone gets back into work or back into, it doesn't help as well. Preseason for footy is around the same time. So people
yep.
are, stuck in between. But no, man, I hope it doesn't, fade away because it is a good sport. And for me myself, I love how Australia is going about it, man. It's actually become, a massive sport within Melbourne, a massive sport within Sydney and Brisbane as well. So, but then again, with the luxury of them, man, they've got money over there, and they've got people there to help support the growth of the game compared to here.
Yeah, I
Um,
think across the board in lots of sports, I guess, even if we take out rugby as an exception, but generally, yeah, Australians do a bit better than us in
yeah,
sports, from their money, just their psyche,
yeah,
also of just how they, like, yeah, invest their time, and their energy into sport and building structures, and just yeah, they don't. It's not like they don't have problems, but generally, um, they do sports better. Eh?
yeah. No, they definitely do, man. Um, within the foul itself, who do you support?
Um, I'm I've just recently jumped on the Oakland Raiders, and I knew full-hand that they are like mud. I got a little bit excited last year that
Mm,
they did quite well early on, and but yeah, prior to that, actually, I didn't really have a team. I followed lots of players, and in particular, middle
yeah,
linebackers.
yeah, yeah.
So I sort of just did that route,
Mm,
and I always just keep getting mocked by my brothers with different people, like you got no team. But yeah, just last year, sort of lockdown, and then I've been a little bit having a bit more time to stay across, because I don't follow the season well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just jump in at spurts. But last year, I was like, oh, across all the stuff now, I've got time. I'm gonna jump on early, and because our metro team here in New Zealand has the Raiders colors, and yeah, lots of people in our club support the Raiders. So I just thought I'll jump in there, move to Las Vegas. Maybe there's some new things happening, and then
Is Pine part of your team as well?
yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a man. He's a man. Yeah, I used to work with him, and I still deal with him through work. And yeah,
Ah,
he's a. I always
he's
always give him some shit about it as well because he won't do any trading, and then all of a sudden I see one of his snaps and he's suiting up. But he's a legend. He's a legend for your guys' line apparently.
oh, 100%, man. He's older than me, but he'd come a bit later,
Mm,
and I've been playing since my teens. And so I've been mocking him, man. When are you gonna finish, man?
yeah, yeah,
I've done a few. Yeah, finished up a few years ago, but I don't know how you do it, man. Like he's limping or other random stuff, and just like, oh, my back. And then as soon as the whistle's gone, Minimal warm up or whatever, helmets, pads, jump on, and yeah, we'll be busting his ass to get downfield and do whatever. Eh?
Mm.
So props to him, man.
Oh, awesome. Sweet as. Also, we'll quickly wrap up our session for tonight. I'll ask you a couple more questions, just some quick fire
Thank
questions, and then we'll get you to finish us off our session tonight. Cool. My first question would be um, obviously growing up within the schooling environment and then working within the tertiary sector itself. Um, you've been working with for about like almost 2 decades. What are some advancements and what are some improvements that the secondary sector need to improve in order to make that transition to tertiary a lot better?
you. I think one thing that slowly schools are getting on top of, and I think on our end, unis as well, is I think like our kids are, and I think we've always been creative,
Mm,
I guess, sort of souls, so to speak. But I think that's exploding now, and without being an expert, I just think because tech is so within our daily lives
mm,
now, more of our young people are becoming entrepreneurial and creative. I think in some instances, the system, if we call it that, is a bit slow to be an enabler rather than a disabler, having blocks in place. And you need to, I think there's still challenges within the education system of trying to make learners fit into tick boxes. These are the foundation blocks of, I guess, a competent learner or intelligence.
mm.
And I think yeah, I think the freedom to let people be and thrive and creativity and like all these big learnings. I think for me, I went to when Max was a boys' school, had traditional boys' school stuff there. I think for me, I'm of that era,
Mm.
rules and just put it in, and that suits me fine. And I think I still have elements of that now. But I think lots more of our young people now deserve to be in places where there are less rules.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Um, with your role that you're currently doing now with AUT, has public speaking always been easy for you?
No, not at all. I hated it in high school. I think and even just like church stuff, like sort of fumbled, but you had elements of like not wanting to disappoint your parents, so
Yeah.
you did your best. But again, by accident, when I was at uni and at AUT, and it's still the same now, is that every paper had like a speech component, either on your own or like in a group assignment.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if we purposely did this, but then just what started happening through our papers was that me and my friends, and most of us were Islanders, but we had a few other non-Islander friends, and so we all learnt off each other and just had lots of laughs along the way. But what became like what previously in high school was like a cringe moment or like I don't know, like a phobia or fear, was that we started looking forward to these speeches in our, because then we were like, oh man, this is gonna be easy, like 20%.
Yeah.
Because then we'd like look at what the I don't know, like, and then we just took this approach like, oh, it's better than reading all these essays and having to
Yes. Yes.
write the stuff. And then I think we like ended up harnessing stuff from like church, from our homes, of our uncles and aunties, of just yeah, being a little bit charismatic, being a bit funny, and but I guess still trying to talk to the points. And I think if I was talking to a friend about this, a non-Islander friend, a few months ago, I think like Islander funerals, man, they can be like lots of laughter, lots of tears,
Mm.
uh, and like a bit of shade and all. But all of these, and like you know, when people speak and like people that hit on the money, and sometimes all of those mixed together,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and it's beautiful as an audience. Like when we like get taken on a journey of people saying they're the favorite grandchild and all these other random things. But yeah, like uni was it for me in AUT, and then all my friends, and I think I started to like bounce off some of my friends that were a little bit more extroverted than me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I got roped into them, and then we used to just sort of like, oh well, it is what it is. Jump up front, tell a story, and then go from there. And I guess then that became the precursor to me coming to Dream. And then dream just happened when I just finished uni. And I was like, wow, I got some tools to just communicate and have fun and engage and share messages with young people.
Oh, that's awesome. Who's your top three middle linebackers?
Oh, well, number one, I just have to get that out of the way. Ray Lewis for me, like, he's just, yeah, he's a machine, eh?
Yep.
He's an enigma. He's got personality. Yeah. And then probably two others, for maybe like different reasons. I really rated Lofa Tupu.
Oh, okay.
Um, he came out of USC, and I think he's just a little bit older than me.
Mm.
And so I sort of was like around the age when I went to the States on a football trip and I sort of had little aspirations here and there.
Mm.
And so he was a little bit ahead of me, and I was starting to follow his journey. He was undersized, played at a small college up Boston ways, and then his dad got him a walk-on at USC a year later.
Mm.
And then he beat out the starters, made his way to the NFL. People were saying he was undersized, he's not going to do well. Played in a final with the Seahawks. I think his first year. Him and Troy when they were in the same Super Bowl. And for me, because I'm an undersized back as well, and I just was like, man, this guy's one of the ulcers.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, lots of us have either size that way, or both, and we use it to our advantage. And I think, on the field with lots of other Islanders, I end up becoming undersized. So it's but I really rated what he did, and then in another sort of era as a I don't know what was
Shaka.
as a trailblazer is Junior Seawe.
Oh, yes.
I think he definitely put like Samoan backers on the map. And from the early 90s until like mid 2000s, he was playing or so, and then unfortunately his death. But yeah, I think so. Ray Lewis, Lofata Tupu, and Junior Seau.
No, awesome. Where are you now as an individual in 2021?
This lockdown, I'm actually feeling quite good. Eh?
Mm.
The last lockdown, I picked up some lazy habits, I think, and then came out a little bit overweight, as they say, lockdown weight, which I think is like sometimes it's just what happens. Second time round, I was like, oh, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. And so I feel good the second lockdown just to put things in place where I'm a little bit more in control of what my day looks like. I'm preparing to embark on a PhD journey next year.
Nice.
So have my supervisors, have my short proposal, and so Lord willing, if things fall into place, then I'll enroll in Feb for semester 1, and I'm just excited for what that could look like. Just feeling good to finish off the rest of the year, albeit obviously the disruptions of lockdown.
No, awesome. If you were to use 3 descriptive nouns or 3 words to describe your journey thus far, what would those 3 words be?
I'm trying to put a word with leader, but like I was gonna like say like like I didn't think I was gonna be a leader.
Oh, okay.
Like sort of thing, like that's that. But I think now, I think that's been my journey thus far. It's just leadership.
Yeah.
I think, and I think in my family makeup, I'm the oldest, all that sort of stuff. So that played a part. But outside of that, I never looked for leadership stuff, but it came to me.
Yeah.
And I think only now am I getting comfortable with that, whereas for a long time I didn't.
Yeah.
So that's one part. 2, I think service has always been big for me, and hence why I looked into some study on that, and what I'll look to do also in the PhD study. But the journey thus far, and probably more the recent thing, is I myself am slowly trying to get rid of. I don't know if guilt's the right word, but just trying to figure out like it's okay to look after yourself, Sam.
Yeah,
Don't have to like. And so that's been my journey thus far. I wouldn't change. Like I guess doing too
yeah,
much,
yeah,
trying to change the world, I wouldn't change any of that. But I think where my journey's got me now is like, oh yeah, all good, bro. Like I think now the season now in life is to find a better balance, and all those seasons before have set you up well. And second one, and then third one is probably comes back to this public speaking thing. Is yeah, I have to tell lots of people that like an introvert,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and then they're like, shut up, stuff like to remind them not to again. And then yeah, I think as ironic as it is, because I live a sort of public life through work and then just community stuff.
Mm.
I enjoy being away from that all.
No, that's awesome, Moss. We'll go on to our last few questions. Um, what do you want your lasting legacy to be? So, i.e., I'll rephrase it in a sentence. So, Sam Pilisi was a. You fill that.
Oh. I struggled with this for a little bit,
Mm.
but now I guess and because the connecting story to this was that I grew up a lot with my grandparents, my Niuean
Mm.
grandparents, and so I guess the finishing part to that was that Sam Pelisi was, and then like the last part of the sentence, however it's framed, was as good as his granddad.
Yeah, that's me. No, that's awesome, Moss.
Because yeah, I think for me, because my first name is my granddad's first
Yeah,
name, Asetoa. I use Sam, and then sometimes when people like Asetoa, for a little while I had a little bit of like a I don't know mind struggle, just going, oh, I don't want to take his name because then I don't think I'm as good
yeah,
enough
yeah,
or
yeah.
I'm as good as him. Now I've gotten a little bit older and just go, oh, it is what it is. Like you can't try and delve into all of this stuff. And so yeah, I think when all is done, and I think if I was in the grave, whatever, and I was to have something to smile about, and if people were there, were like, oh man, this guy was just as good as his granddad, I'd be like, yep.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Who should our next guest be, and who can you put us in touch with?
Ooh, um, have you? I'm gonna try to think out there. I really rate Arizona Ledger. She is a young lady who's passionate about people, and while she's younger than me, yeah, I'm really encouraged and inspired by what she does. So I've got one girl, and then a guy. Um, he's a bit random, but I think it's good. Tuputau Lelaulu, John, aka John Belford. I think he's always got some cool stuff up his sleeves, and I think to date he's had a awesome journey doing lots of stuff in different places.
No, that's awesome, Moss. I'll definitely take that down, and I'll definitely be in touch with you to try and see if we can make that connection and get them on board.
Me?
Uh,
Yeah.
for me, my last question is also obviously with this whole podcast is to highlight our Pasifika brothers and sisters in terms of the journey that they're going through, as well as if anyone can take anything useful or gems from these sessions to use in their own walk of life. That's the main goal for me. So for
Mm.
me, my last question to you is, what's one piece of advice or one that you've either been given or you've always used in your own walk of life that you can share for anyone that's tuning in tonight?
I think it reflects on some of my previous sort of stuff I've said, but as corny as it is, and I think sometimes as foreign as it sounds, this idea of self, this idea of like looking after yourself, and it's okay to do that.
Mm.
And I think I saw this thing the other day. It was like, yes, a little bit corny and maybe it's simple, but I think it said something like, the best person to look after yourself is you.
Mm.
And I think, yeah, we only have one shot, and I think at life, and I think, yeah, like we have to look after ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've learned to appreciate that that's everything, and I'm definitely not any guru and have my life all sorted, but everything from what we eat to how we look after our bodies to what we feed our mind to like who we hang around with, all of that sort of stuff. Like I think that's powerful, eh? And there's definitely lots we can do to others, with others, and for others. But I think the most important person is yourself. And I do consider like do acknowledge that it gets a bit tricky and awkward
Yeah,
for many of us, especially Pasifika people. But and even now in my late 30s, trying to figure that out. But I think for maybe even some of the younger peeps, brothers and sisters out there, I think if you, in your own way, champion what that looks like, I think not only will you be blessed by being a powerful and wholesome person, but it's only natural that the people around you are going to be blessed because you're firing,
yeah.
like you're on top of your game. Me, they're going to be blessed because yeah, you're on top of your game. So whatever that looks like for you, it's just yeah, love yourself, eh? And again, sounds a bit corny, but I think that's said with some genuineness. um, yeah, you only have one life.
That's awesome, also, and that's an awesome way to wrap up our session tonight. From here on our end, also, I'd just like to say thank you again for sparing up your time. I know where this has been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of trying to get our timetables to line up to get this ball rolling. But man, hey, look, it's been awesome to have you on board, and like obviously just the knowledge that you shared with me, myself and all those who are tuning in. It's just an awesome experience. One thing I said about our previous guest was Taito Paul, who just came off, who's working with the I Am Hope Foundation, is that people like yourself, Sam, are just real life walking heroes for our people, great examples and of people that can help direct our generation moving forward. So appreciate you sharing your time and your journey with us tonight, also.
I appreciate it.
Now, all good. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and that's us for today.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Sally.
also.